Good morning. We made it finally on this Thursday. I'm going to give you a moment to grab a coffee or a tea like I have today. Thanks to Tim Hortons for their lovely London fogs. They always make you feel better. And I'm super late once again. But I saw this really, I don't know if it was a quote or a inspirational message or something the other day that said that you are not late. You are actually on time for whatever you need to do. So is time irrelevant now? I feel like I learned that in watching the new Matrix movie last week. So what do you think? Good morning, Michaela. Thank you. I got a new hair thingy that I'm playing around with that I have no idea how to use. So I just gave it a go. Good morning, April. How are you? I haven't seen you in a long time. Okay, new computer. I don't know how to turn the sounds off yet, so bear with me on that one. I need to borrow. Yeah, well, maybe this weekend we can watch a YouTube video and figure out how to actually use this thing. But hey, messy beach waves are in. Pamela, good morning. Kathy, good morning. Thank you for having coffee today. Hey, good morning, Angie. I'm just going to give people another 30 seconds to join us. Hello, Scott. And yeah. So if you're watching on Facebook, I think I typed out my disclaimer there, but in case you're joining us on Twitter, Instagram, or YouTube, I don't know if those show up or not. I don't think they do. So I will give you my disclaimer of the morning, just in case we need it. And that is that I've had a really tough week. I've been experiencing some pretty intense grief that has been a little bit overwhelming, more so than I think I've ever experienced before. And it's been a tough week. So my disclaimer to you this morning is that at any given moment, I could become teary-eyed. I will probably have a shaky voice, but don't worry. We are being vulnerable together because that's what we're called to do. And I mean, it's a week where I don't know if it was planned beautifully by the universe or what, but to have really big mental health challenges on a week when that's where the conversation is due to Bell's big Bell Let's Talk Day that happened yesterday. We saw a lot of conversation happening online with people who are sharing their struggles with what that looked like. And so, yeah, I just thought, you know what, today we're just going to try. We're just going to try because it would have been really easy to go back to bed. And so anybody else who sees this, who got out of bed today, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you because sometimes that's easier. And if you are watching from your bed today and you didn't get out of bed today, that's okay too. There's always tomorrow. So anyway, I wanted us to gather together to connect because that's the whole point of our coffee club, was to connect. And not everybody's always having an up day, and not everybody's always having an up week, myself included. And I think I've shared this with you before because I spent such a long time in a demanding industry where the show must go on no matter what. I've really had this training that you don't show your emotion and you have to stay unbiased and you have to stay neutral and you have to just always be on. And that's an exhausting place to be. And so I thought, you know what? I'm not technically in that industry in the same way. This is our coffee club. And if I want to show up and have you watch me cry, as vulnerable as that makes me feel, That's what we're going to do because it's one foot in front of the other to keep going. And yeah, I guess that's where I'm at today. And so I wanted to check in with you also and see how you are doing because we know January is one of those months. We know that we're coming up to the 2-year anniversary of this whatever pandemic, and we're all feeling, and I honestly believe this, we are all carrying an element of grief along with us through these last couple years. And we're probably not doing grief steps like we could if we wanted to, up to you. So I think we're all feeling it in some way, shape, or form. And then sometimes it gets really heavy, right? And so I wanted to connect with you and just see how you are doing. Melodyne, you're here today. Good morning. It's been a long time. It's good to see you. See you. I wish I could see you back sometimes. Michaela, thank you for that. Joni, good morning. I appreciate your love. Thank you. Yeah, and Angie, I know you've been struggling too. So I think that's normal. I think that we all have those moments. And it was kind of interesting this week. I will share is I experienced something that I've talked to friends about before who have gone through. I've had friends whose kids have gone through this. I know somebody who like a friend of a friend I know has like debilitating panic attacks in their everyday life. And good morning, Alyssa. We're on like baby watch 2020 with you. We can't wait for your son to arrive. And anyway, I experienced them this week for the first time, and I had never had a panic attack before. They are overwhelming and they are terrifying. And thankfully, they're sort of short spanned, or mine were. Um, but I'd never been in that space before. And many of you could be, if you feel like sharing, if you feel confident in doing so, please do. But those were some unbelievable moments to go through this week, triggered by, I think, these episodes of grief that I've had. And I just wanted to say that I don't know, if you've had those before, you're not alone. And please feel free and feel safe to talk about it. And it was amazing because I have a really good support team in my life. My family, my mom have been here just supporting me hugely. And I have an incredible group of friends. I'm really lucky. Not everybody has a support team like that. And so I want to encourage you to reach out and start building one if you don't. But I had one friend who said, well, if you feel like they get too intense, I want you to go to the hospital and get some help for it. And she said to me, if you hurt your leg and you needed to take something for the pain in your leg, you would take it without question. And I think this is where the big conversation around mental health comes, that mental health is health. Because we would never, like, I took Advil excessively on Monday for the migraine that kept me from coffee club. And I never feel weird or guilt or shame or embarrassment to take an Advil. So why would I about anything else? And I think that's, to me, that was like, okay, I'm going to keep that nugget because I think that's part of the conversation that we need to keep having, not just on a Bell Let's Talk day, but in our everyday lives. As we talk a lot about mental health has become sort of a catchphrase, and self-care has become a catchphrase, and all of these pieces, but what do they really mean? And what does that look like? And have we really taken away stigma for if people need to take something to get through? And I had a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I don't need to go that far, but I probably was pretty close, if I'm going to be honest with myself. And I just want you to know that if you're in that place, or you know someone that's in that place, let's help them just accept and love the pieces that they're in, right? Because everybody needs something that is a part of stabilizing. And we were going to have a special guest on this week that I met last week, who it works with AHS and also has a private practice. And Alex is an incredible psychologist who we had a really cool conversation about the differences between mental illness and mental wellness, and identifying different things and knowing what triggers are. And also we had a great conversation about self-care versus distraction. And Alex was going to come on and chat, and I unfortunately wasn't able to be present enough for that conversation, but we are going to have him on the show. I'm hoping next week, if not very soon, and we're going to have a good conversation about that, because I think we need to keep talking about it and keep identifying those pieces and keep working with each other to get through it. And we've heard Dr. Jody Carrington, if you followed any of her stuff, she talks about how we are wired to do hard things, and we feel like so often we don't have the strength to get through them. But how we get through it, I believe, is connecting and connecting with other people. And you've heard me preach that 1,000 times, but that's kind of what's been on my mind. Yeah, I know, Michaela. Alex is fantastic, and I really look forward. We did dive a little bit into that conversation on another social media platform that I do for a client, and you can catch that conversation there if you go to the High River and District Healthcare Foundation. We did that talk earlier in last week, and it was phenomenal. But I'm going to get Alex to join us on Coffee Club to dive a little bit more into that. And then you have the opportunity also, if you would like to ask Alex any questions, he will be here to chat with us. And keeping up with that, I guess the theme of mental health is we're going to try really hard to have Vic on the show tomorrow morning. And I don't want to promote him in advance, because we were promoting him, and then unfortunately we had that computer issue, and then Vic was under the weather, and then I was under the weather. And so we're not going to pre-promote it, except that I'm really hoping Vic is going to join us tomorrow. And he runs, he's a coach, and he runs the mental wealth campaign. And he is incredibly awesome at diving into mental health and fun. And we're going to talk tomorrow too, just about ways, tips and tricks and ways that we can work on our actual health together also, like things that we can take, different ideas for vitamins or supplements, immunity boosters, and things that we can do for ourselves to just keep working on our physical health also, because they're so intertwined. Like once one goes down, it's pretty safe that the other one wants to follow suit. So yeah, we're going to work on that tomorrow morning. We're going to make it through. Joni says, panic attacks for me feel like I'm dying, like my throat is closing. These are medically wrong. They are awful, but as you say, temporary. And I've found some self-soothing tools to help me get through them, but they are real. Yeah, and I think that if you have never experienced one, you don't really understand. Like I've been sympathetic or empathetic to people who have had them before. I have a friend whose daughter needed to go into the hospital recently for some anxiety attacks. Same kind of thing, and something she had never experienced before either. And so I think that we've been through a lot, like the trauma and the ongoing uncertainty through this pandemic has really made a lot of pieces heavy. So just be aware of that. And I think too, the other thing I was saying this to my mom this morning that I was just called to remind us of. And I know too, again, I'm such a broken record sometimes. But radio girl, I know that repetition makes it stick. So the other thing is just reminding each other to be kind. We have no idea what people have going on in their lives on a daily basis. And we have no idea what struggles people face. Most people don't share their struggles publicly. And so you have no idea. So our kindness makes all the difference in the world. And I had shared on my page a podcast that I had did last year with an amazing guy named Travis James, who was at the point where he had decided that he was going to take his life, that he was in such a dark place that he could not climb out of, that taking his life was the best scenario that he could come up with. And he pulled the trigger and survived. And now Travis is an advocate of mental health, and he is trying to promote that, and he is trying to break stigmas, and he is trying to share. And he is, even I saw on his social media the other day, some people still give him grief online and question things he says and does, and bully him in weird ways that I don't understand, but trolls be trolls. But at the same time, maybe they're being triggered in something that they haven't dealt with. And so I reshared Travis's story if you wanted to take a listen, because his journey is dynamic, and that was one of those shows that was life changing for me after hearing what he had gone through and the moments. And he actually shares the thoughts he had um, during the procedure. And now I will warn you, it could be very triggering for people who are also in a dark place. So if you're not feeling strong enough to listen to that today, please do not. But it's a great story. And Travis is very inspiring. And I just felt sharing that again this week just might help somebody. And the other thing that I thought was kind of interesting is yesterday I received a text from someone. And so I think during Bell Let's Talk Day, we're inspired a little bit more to share or do a check-in or something. And you and I have talked about checking in with people all the time. That's why we're here. But I got a text from someone that I hadn't chatted with in a long time. And you actually know Terry. He's been on Coffee Club before, super awesome guy. And he'd sent a check-in text yesterday. And I don't know if it was because of Bell Let's Talk Day or because the universe knew that I needed someone else from outside that inner circle to just see if I was doing okay. I don't know. Maybe it's both. And it was so awesome to hear that. And it made me reflect in taking myself out of the scenario and just thinking about a check-in in general, is that if you're somebody, or no, like if you were somebody who was in that dark space where maybe that was something you were contemplating, or maybe you were just having your lowest of the low moment, and lo and behold, on your phone just comes a message saying, "Hey, I just wanted to check in with you. I hope you're doing okay. I want to remind you that you're amazing." How much do you think a gesture like that probably would take you, what, 10 seconds to type, could change the trajectory of somebody's life? That's pretty phenomenal. And I think we take for granted sometimes the power of something so simple. And it just popped into my brain that I was like, you just never know. And I've heard so many stories when I've taken different suicide training courses and mental wellness and illness courses that I've taken in the past as a part of Emotional Safe Spot, is that there's so many stories of people who they were in that space and they were thinking those thoughts, and somebody smiled at them when they walked down the street. And that smile changed the trajectory of that person's day and life. And they were still here to share that story. You just don't know. Kindness sounds like, yeah, it's a given. Of course, we should be kind. There's be kind everything in the world that you can purchase now. It's also become one of those cliche phrases. And there's not bullying days coming up, and all of those things that we're able to sort of market around to create awareness. And it seems so, yeah, like, of course you should be kind. But just let it sink for a moment how powerful kindness really is. And I know that I've had moments this week when the sadness and the anger and the hurt and the pain that you have that builds in you so hugely and is so overwhelming, and you flip it into gratitude and you flip it into a kindness statement even towards yourself, how much that makes a difference. And like Alex, who I can't wait for you to meet, said to me once, is just because it's simple doesn't mean it's easy. Reminds us that we just got to try things and we just got to power through it. Does that make sense? Am I making any sense today at all? Madeline shares, broken records are amazing because if we miss the message the first time, we pick it up the next. Man, how many times have you read like a book or seen a movie and you find something else in it that you didn't get before, right? Because messages are delivered to us through a variety of mediums all day, every day. And we're going to hear that message differently depending on where we are. I have this really cool book. I think I talked about it endlessly through the beginning of COVID, called Journey of the Heart by Beatty. And this book is one where you read like an inspiring message slash thought-provoking message every day. And so I've had this book now for a couple of years, I believe. And so I started it again at the beginning of January. They're all dated per day, but you could jump in whenever you wanted. And I know I've read these messages before, but they mean something different to me this year than they did last year, than they did the spring before that. And such a cool book. I totally recommend it. Candace shares, we live in an unkind world right now, so we need to focus on creating safe spaces for ourselves. Yeah, and I think in that too, Candace, what do you think? It's and not I think the other piece is in creating that safe space for yourself. Sometimes you feel like you're being, I don't know if the word is selfish, or you're, I don't know. I think we've been so conditioned for so long that we're supposed to give all the things to other people, that we feel like when we have to step back and give it to ourselves, that we're either letting people down, not being right, being selfish, not doing the right thing, being unprofessional. Those are all shit words that I have said to myself over the last 4 days, 100%. I will admit that. And it's wrong. We have to put ourselves first, and we have to deal with the inside first to make the outside better. So, and that's not easy. What else do we got here? Michaela says, I'm making sense. She has a copy of this book that I gifted her. I don't know. I've probably bought 10 copies in my life and given it more. I would buy more. I don't know. Maybe I should get Melody. I don't know if Melody Beatty, I think she's been writing for a long time. I'm not sure. I don't know her, obviously, but maybe I need to get her on the show if she is still with us and have her just give away 1,000 copies of that book. I just love it so much. Candace, you were on fire with the suggestions today. Yeah. She says she thinks it's divine intervention. I don't disagree. Ooh, Burge says drinking kombucha and doing spiritual understanding. Is that what you're doing today? Because that's awesome. If not, that's also something we could do. Oh, and look at all you Aquariuses bonding on here. That's so fun. Anyway, guys, I didn't totally break down and cry. Like, it was pretty close there for a sec, but I held it together. Claps for me today. Made it through. One day at a time, my friends. That's all we can ever do. And that's all we enjoy, and that's all we love. And that's okay. One day at a time. Anything else on your hearts and minds today that you want to share? I appreciate you hanging out. We've had lots of good interaction today. It's been so fun. Yes, Birch, for sure. Joni, thank you. Did it. Guess we'll live. All right. Have an amazing rest of your Thursday. We made it through this one, and we'll see you tomorrow. Fingers crossed with me. Everybody cross them. Um, that we will have Vic on tomorrow morning to have a fun chit chat with us about mental health, about taking care of our health, about taking ownership of our health and not making it somebody else's priority. I think there's been some interesting language, in my opinion, around that through this pandemic, that your health is somebody else's responsibility. And that is not the case. We are responsible for our own health. And we're going to talk about that tomorrow with Vic, and we are going to get through this. Thank you for being my cheerleaders today and helping me get through this piece. And I will see you back here tomorrow. Yeah, I love this. What April says. Take gentle care of yourselves, friends. I love that. Thank you, Darlene. Have an amazing rest of your Thursday, and we will see you back here for a fun Friday. Okay, Vic is fun. He is hilarious, and he's like the most beautiful, kindest man I have never met in person. Have an amazing day, and we will see you back here tomorrow morning.